Okay, let's get to part two of I Told You So today. What do we got here? Speaking of Trump,
America is going to be very rich again, and it's going to happen very quickly. It's time for the United States to return to the system that made us richer and more powerful than ever before. You know, the United States in 1870 to 1913, all tariffs, and that was the richest period in the history of the United States, relatively speaking. In other words, relatively. And they set up the Great Tariff Commission of 1887, and this commission had one function: what to do with all the money that we took in. It was so enormous that they had no idea. It was a blue ribbon committee. It was set up 1887, and what to do with all of the money that we had. And again, Teddy Roosevelt was a beneficiary, because when McKinley was killed, he took over this vast sum of money, and he did all of those national parks and all of the other things. And I'm not knocking him, but he was given a vast amount of money, and that was all made through tariffs. As we had no income tax. The income tax came in 1913. As I said in my speech last week, instead of taxing our citizens to enrich foreign nations, we should be tariffing and taxing foreign nations to enrich our citizens. Does that make sense, right?
does that make sense, right? Oh, does it ever? Oh, does it ever? Makes too much sense. And that's a problem with it. It makes too much sense. So if you think about it, what's going on here? So I've been talking about this on the channel for a very long time now, and I'm sure some people can confirm that in the chat. But I've been saying for a long time that Trump is going to he's been talking about getting rid of tax on tips, tax on Social Security, tax on veterans pay, tax on a lot of different things, overtime. And I said, there's going to come a point. He's just kind of introducing all of these slowly, because if Trump day one came out and said, we're going to abolish income taxes, everybody would be like, what? What is this guy talking about? So they would say that. Plus, he wouldn't really get to pander, I guess, to certain groups, right? Like when he said no tax on tips, he was very much talking to I was going to say strippers, waitresses. Waitresses. He was talking to Las Vegas and like the service industry. All his hotels, Vegas, I think, is where he announced it first. But he was talking to a certain segment of people there. When he said no tax on Social Security, he was talking to older people, the older generation who relies on a fixed income and is watching their wealth and their life get harder and harder every month. So no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. He was talking about the blue collar folks, the people who put in a bunch of overtime. You're not going to pay tax on that anymore. But big picture here, long game, is that all income taxes are going to be gone, at least for a little while. And I think that once they're gone for a little while, any politician will have a very hard time bringing them back. So what's going to happen? How is the government going to continue operating? Well, number one, it's going to get much smaller. And we've kind of seen that with the DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. But I think the thing that most people aren't talking about is actually the revenue side of things. So the DOGE basically tries to cut expenses, cut costs, get rid of the fat from the government. The other side, the revenue side of things, Howard Lutnick's in charge of that one. I don't know if you've heard Howard Lutnick talk about this. He's the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. He's a huge Bitcoiner, and he's a very smart businessman. So he's in charge of generating more revenue. And what he's been talking about with that is actually utilizing the natural resources that the US has. He's talked about this. I've heard him talk about this on an interview before. I think it was with Pomp, maybe. But if you think about it, like I think that most people and a lot of people watching this show even today would look at America and say, all right, America, you're $36 trillion in debt. You're fucked. But then you take a step back and you say, okay, well, who's the $36 trillion owed to? The Fed? The Federal Reserve? Okay, where's your army, Federal Reserve? Like, what are you going to do about it if we don't pay back this $36 trillion? So that's one part. But the other one too, if you looked at this like a businessman, like a Trump, like a Howard Lutnick, you see how much potential that the US has. And then you talk about Greenland, and then you talk about Canada as well in terms of natural resources. Like, think about all the natural resources that America has that are being completely unused. Whether you're talking gold in the Grand Canyon, whether you're talking gold in the, what's the one in California? Choco Mountain? That's the one on Mario Kart too. Chocolate Mountain, I think. So much gold, so much resources. The oil, get that oil flowing. But that's just one aspect of it. And America, it's a little bit different. But that's why I'm so interested in like Greenland and Canada, is because the majority of the resources in the US are being pretty much utilized for the most part. I'm sure there's some untapped resources out there that you could hook a Bitcoin miner up to. But with Greenland and Canada, they're very natural resource heavy. And I saw Trump when he was signing his executive orders on day one. He said, Greenland's a good place when we need Greenland for national security. Think about that. That's what he said. He said, we need Greenland for national security. What the hell does that mean? An island in the middle of the ocean? The US needs that for national security? Or is he talking about Bitcoin mining? Is he talking about hooking up Bitcoin mining machines to all the resources in Northern Canada, in Greenland, and mining Bitcoin with that for national security? Because Bitcoin, the government understands this, Space Force understands this, Jason Lowry understands this. Bitcoin is national security. If you can get access to resources and you can start literally printing money with your natural resources, that is huge for national security. So that's where this whole thing's going. That's where Trump's going with this. And so instead of taxing individuals, instead of taxing human resources, we're going to start taxing other countries and natural resources, not taxing it, but utilizing natural resources. So we're making the shift from human resources to natural resources. And you start hooking up Bitcoin mining, Bitcoin miners to all these untapped natural resources, you literally start printing money. And when you have your resources working for you, you don't need your citizens to work for you anymore. So Trump's serious about this, 100% serious about this. I see probably within this year, he's going to say, you're not paying tax for a couple of years. He's basically already told the Fed to FO. He's told the IRS to FO. And he's told the World Economic Forum to FO within a week. Within 1 week. So that is my I told you so for the day. Two of them, actually. NVIDIA and no income taxes. And yeah, I'm getting tired of winning. Are you?